My
Yes, we can
presentation,
see
the
them.
HPC Carpentry title page. Okay. All right. My name is Andrew Reed. I'm a member of the steering committee of the HPC Carpentry project as it has evolved, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm also a computational material scientist here at the National Institute of Standards and Technology in Gaithersburg, Maryland, in the United States. And I operate a small HPC cluster. And sort of my interest in HPC carpentry dates back, I guess, probably 6 years or so, maybe a little longer. And my sort of initial motivation was that I was interested in getting sort of smarter users for my cluster. I was very sort of self-serving, but I got involved with the community and learned more about it and became a carpentries instructor, and just kind of the ball has just sort of been rolling since then. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about sort of where we are now, where this project is. The presentation, I think, is relatively brief, but that's maybe a good thing. So here's an outline of what it is. So I'm going to tell you, first of all, the general overview of the carpentries. I think that will probably be redundant for much of the community here. How HPC carpentry fits in and builds on the carpentries. A brief history of this effort, which we'll touch on the other speakers on Juan's role. Developments that we made since I said since 2020, but the timing is actually a little bit different from that. It's sort of longer than that, I think. The project that I'm involved with, that I'm on the steering committee of, has a strategic plan. We have some challenges. We've had some recent activity, and then I'm at the overview of the EPCC effort is where I will hand it off to Juan, and then maybe we will come back and look at some of the comms channels. So the carpentries. So the carpentries was founded, I don't know when it was founded. It was quite a while ago by Greg Wilson in the 90s. And it was motivated by a common problem in research practice, which is on the slide here, which is a lot of people need to do computational work and don't have formal training in the kind of computational work that they need to do. There's sort of a glue layer that's missing, right? They're subject matter experts in some subject, and they have a resource and like the thing where, everybody uses the resource and the community maybe teaches you, and there's a lot of gaps between sort of what you have and what you need to effectively use the resource. And typically this is computing. The problems that people were having, particularly in the educational setting, in universities, was that students tend to be relatively transient. They come and then they go. Postdocs maybe come and then they go, but the project lives on without them. And good coding practices are hard to learn. There's no place in the main curriculum for them. And the fact that these people don't have these skills means that they don't do a good job of coding. There's a barrier to making progress, and even once they do make progress, once they leave, their solutions tend to be idiosyncratic and difficult for other people to leverage to help to move the project forward. So other people tend to be starting over. So that's kind of the set of problems that Greg Wilson kind of identified. And so the basic idea was to try to solve this problem in a workshop setting outside of the main curriculum. So using this carpentry scheme, right? So the idea is, the central conceit, I think, is that the skills necessary can be taught in a workshop setting. And the way you do this is you sit everybody down and they type along with an instructor who has empathy for the learners. This is the huge thing that I learned from the carpentry instructor training was learner empathy was very strongly emphasized, and rightly so. You work hands-on with actual systems. You actually use a shell. You actually use Git. You actually use an HPC system. And what you come out of the workshop with is some vocabulary and some muscle memory of how the system works, and maybe a mental model of what it is you're doing on the system. So the importance of that is you're not going to come away as an expert. And you're in a 1 day or 2 day workshop. There's no way you can become an expert in the shell, or an expert in Git, or an expert in Python, or an expert in HPC, or any of the things that the carpentries has lessons for. But you can get a running start, right? You'll be in a place where when you face this problem again, you'll recognize some of the items of it, and your Google searches will be more fruitful, or your notes will be more fruitful. And so it's pedagogically sound. So Greg, the carpentries community is very into like paying attention to the educational literature on sort of reproducible facts about how people learn. There's a formal instructor training process, and there's also a formal process for training the people who train instructors. All of the lessons are open source. Instructor and learner feedback is used to modify the lessons, so they're continuously improving, and it's inclusive. Anyone can contribute feedback or pull requests to the carpentry's lessons. So in the HPC Carpentry project, we kind of noticed some of the same challenges, right? So researchers with HPC requirements often don't have adequate training in how to run an HPC system. How do you even submit a job, right? They struggle to effectively scale their operations up and out. Even when they have the hardware resources, they may even have code that runs, but they can't necessarily use the HPC resource to its maximum effect because they just don't understand. Like they're just a missing piece in their knowledge. And again, this is where I'm coming from. Is HPC facility operators can be frustrated by non-knowledgeable users who might guess, right? They make some. They're like, oh, it looks like maybe it should do this, right? And they'll try something and it will scale badly and it will, show up on the system administrator's thing as misuse of the resource, disrupt other users maybe, and it may require significant handholding. And so if everybody were better at this, everybody would be better off, right? So this is the kind of motivation for the sort of obvious move, which is HPC carpentry, right? Skills necessary to use the system can be taught in a workshop setting on a real cluster, actually typing along, getting the muscle memory and getting the mental model for how this is going to go. So the system has the project has significant history. I think there have been a number of forks at various times, but I think the oldest commit in the repos that we have are from what was at the time Compute Canada and is now the Digital Research Alliance of Canada. When I got involved, Peter Steinbach, who's the author of the HPC in a Day, was kind of had like root on the relevant repos. There was a BOF at SE17, Andy Turner and various others were there. Andy Turner is called out specifically here because he's at EPCC. There were a number of discussions at CarpentryCon in 2018. There was a BOF at SE18, which actually I think I was not at, but a whole bunch of people were there, and the project kind of, I think, gelled a little bit around that. There was an informal session at SE19. The biggest gathering where I think I first sort of added significant value was the CarpentryCon 2020. Trevor Keller was there. He's also on the steering committee, Christina Koch and others. We had a BOF at SE21. I led that. We got a lot of feedback from HPC operators. We sort of wondered, actually, this is germane to this conversation, because at the SE21 BOF, we kind of came away with like good information from HPC site operators, but we wondered if we had kind of missed the mark if it was the wrong conference, because we didn't like tap into learners, and we didn't like just some of our goals were just kind of not met. Nevertheless, after that, we were accepted into the Carpentries Incubator and began working towards lesson program incubation. We were a significant presence at CarpentryCon 2022. We did a lightning talk, we did a sprint, we started developing a workflow lesson, which I'll talk about later. In June of 2023, we were formally accepted into lesson program incubation and are working to become the fourth pillar of the Carpentries alongside library, data, and software carpentry. November 2023, we made a bunch of contacts at SE23. This meeting is an outcome from that. I met Scott Callahan there and a number of other people. I was at a number of sort of community building and HPC sessions. I think what we learned from SE23 is that SE is the right meeting, or is one of the right meetings to be at. And our SE21 strategy was just wrong. We were just, well, I'm not wrong. It was oblique, right? It was not well targeted. And so the most recent thing that we did was in April of 2024, the workflow lesson that we've been developing entered testing. It's the first lesson that's been developed from scratch under this umbrella. So since 2020, we have made a number of sort of changes to the curriculum as we are developing it. In the initial version of the curriculum, as it came to us, there was an HPC shell lesson, and we've decided that we don't think that's a good idea. The Carpentry shell intro lesson is much better maintained, has a much larger set of maintainers and a larger audience, so it just has more bandwidth, it gets better feedback. And we can add some HPC specific content at the start of the HPC intro method in particular. SSHing to a cluster is something that's not covered in the shell intro, but that we can just add. And we reworked the HPC intro. We had an early workshop here at the National Institute of Standards and Technology that gave rise to feedback that people said, we just sort of, they noted that we just kind of dive into some of the vocabulary, right? Like, so you connect to the cluster and here's a node and here's a thing, here's a resource manager. And they were sort of a little bit confused because of course in the shell, everything looks the same. And so they wanted more like a map of where we were going. So we have a jargon buster presentation. It deviates a little bit from sort of Carpentry's best practice in that it's non-interactive, but it's brief and sets the stage. And so we think that's been successful for us. We also incorporated an Amdahl stunt executable. The HPC intro lesson that came to us had, I think, a CPI example that you compiled and looked at the code to see the MPI. We decided, rightly or wrongly, we don't know yet, right? So we're still road testing the lesson, but our guess was that the code, having people look at the code, distracted them from the point of the lesson, which was HPC scheduler ops. And so we have a stunt app, which is sort of a black box or gray box that we just tell them is an HPC, is a parallel executable, and that they can run it in parallel. This again this is also sort of, you know, black boxes or gray boxes are risky, right? Because if you don't want to, you want people to build muscle memory and have confidence, and so you can't give them too much magic. So we think it's not too much magic. We also developed a workflow lesson that I talked about a little bit before. It's a small development team. It's mostly the steering committee, but we're pretty well focused, and we do get some things done. We have a strategic plan. This is something that we have been thinking about a little bit before we entered an incubator status, but it's certainly more salient now that we are in lesson program incubator status. The strategic plan revolves around sort of two core workshops. The first of which is sort of an HPC user workshop. It consists of the Carpentry's Unix shell intro lesson, our HPC intro lesson, and the HPC workflow lesson with the Amdahl's law application. And at the end of that process, so you get as far as using workflow tools to fully automate a scaling study on a parallel resource with the Amdahl's law application. And as you may guess, so I guess I didn't introduce this, you may guess from the Amdahl's law application, it's an application that has a certain amount of serial work and a certain amount of parallel work, and as you parallelize it more, it gets faster. But as the degree of parallelization increases, the benefit of parallelizing it starts to kind of saturate, which is of course Amdahl's law. That's the best developed workshop. We actually ran it for the first time last week at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, all three of these lessons together, and it went pretty well. The other part of the strategic plan is a sort of developer track, which is Unix shell HPC intro, and then an HPC development lesson, which does not currently exist at all, but which would be one where attendees would actually code something in some language using some parallel framework. We're thinking probably Python and MPI for Pi, but we're not, because it doesn't exist. It's still wide open. It could be C or C++ and MPI, or it could be Dask or another parallel framework. And of course, as part of the sort of strategic plan, we will continue to curate and host additional material. There's a lot of Carpentry's based material out there in the world, and much of it is very good. And at a minimum, we want to make sure we're aware of that and link to it. And some of it we might host if it's orphaned and encourage people to use. There are a number of challenges that we face. One is I guess the main one is sort of finding our place in the larger HPC education community. There's a lot of options, as I said. There's a lot of good material, there's a lot of mature content, and there's a lot of belief at HPC centers that their education problem is solved, and I think that's probably not true, but I don't want to be too dismissive of that, because of course these centers are operating and they have users and they're meeting their mission. But my guess is, and this is more than a little self-serving, but nevertheless here it is, that there's a lot of novice users. There's a lot of false negatives, right? So there's novice users who come to a center, are bewildered, and leave. And the HPC center is not even aware that these people exist. They don't know that they're failing these people. And so that's, if that's true, that's an area where we're in a position to add considerable value. So I guess I've jumped to the second bullet. So the first one is connecting with learners. Finding people who want to use HPC systems but are not able to is hard. Again, there's a kind of a false negative problem there. But I think like the SC23, educational community that we connected with is really good about that. Like, I think there's a lot of very promising links there, and people we are talking to and probably should be talking to more. I mentioned already about the centers believing that they have solved this problem, and some of them have like they just have big, very friendly web pages with documentation, but they don't workshop it necessarily, and so they don't do the hands-on live coding sort of slow thing that is the Carpentry's model. Another challenge we have is we have some content, but it's not adapted to. It's hard to adapt to specific clusters. The HPC intro lesson, as it came to us, had a bunch of snippets. There's a Compute Canada snippet, an EPCC snippet, a number of others, and adapting it for another site, for localizing it to a particular HPC site, involves copying the snippets over and writing them for your site. And then if there are a bunch of people do that, and even if they do it well and it works, the next developer who needs to fork the lesson and adapt it to their site is faced with a bewildering array of snippets. I think our solution to that is, firstly, this lesson has not yet been migrated to the Carpentry's workbench by us, but when we do that, we're planning to maybe try and solve the snippet problem at the same time, possibly by using a higher level of abstraction and not adapting in quite as much site-specific detail. We're also thinking, we have, so Alan O'Cash, who's on our team, on the steering committee, has access to this Terraform way of standing up cloud clusters, and we're thinking if we make that the standard cluster and the default, then that maybe serves a large fraction of the community, and the localization problem is maybe smaller. That we're guessing a little bit about that. That's related to the fact that the next bullet, some users use ephemeral resources. If you want to learn how to use a cluster, you can stand up a cluster in Amazon and then tear it down. And so the value of what you've learned is sort of not super clear, right? If you learned it for the ephemeral cluster and now it's gone, can you adapt those skills to a new resource? Well, if the Carpentry's model is right and you have the muscle memory and the mental model, then yes. But we don't know for sure that that's really right. We think it is. We hope it is. We're also interested in as much community engagement as we possibly can. We have a few sort of notched success stories there, I think. We try to go to as many meetings as we can. We have quite a good relationship with the Carpentry's curriculum development folks who are encouraging us in this kind of thing. We will be participating in the Carpentry's Connect conference in 2024. We're still working through the SC23 context, excuse me. We gave a pre-recorded lightning talk at SC Asia 2024. There was an informal activity at ISC this year. I'll talk maybe a little bit about later. We had this activity where we actually road tested the full user workshop at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory last week. It went pretty well. This talk is a result of is part of the community engagement and community building. We're aware of a number of similar efforts. So the Code Refinery people in Europe have a bunch of good lessons too, and maybe some stuff that we can learn from, and maybe they can learn from us. We made some informal contacts there again at SA23. We've been talking to the Netherlands eScience Institute. They have a bunch of lessons that they're looking at that are parallel programming, but not HPC. And I think our informal conversations, we sort of decided now is not the time to fully engage and maybe HPCize those lessons, but maybe that's a near future thing we want to do. And we've also been talking to some people at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration here in the US who have some sort of more data-centric lessons that might benefit from HPC type resources. These are sort of descending order of engagement, I guess. So it says at the bottom there, that again, our principal audience is novice HPC users. We're interested in serving less novice HPC users where practical, and facility operators. The better our community engagement, the more people we can serve. That's obviously a good thing. So we have some recent highlights. Again, road testing the thing from the strategic plan. This came together surprisingly informally, our contact at Lawrence Livermore, Jane Harriman, sort of started coming to our meetings. I think she became aware of us through the SC23 SIG HPC education activities. And we were talking about it. It was initially almost a sort of, well, hey, we could do a workshop at Livermore, couldn't we? Like it was sort of a maybe facetious suggestion, but it evolved into actually doing it, and it went extremely well. Came together. I think it's a good example, maybe, of my guess being right. That I mean, they're an enormous HPC center, obviously, but they have interns who come in who are novice users, and I think we're not particularly well served by the existing training that they had because of their novice status. So it remains to be seen how well that works or how well that scales. But we do at least have one data point where it worked quite well. So this is a little bit of a summary. Our current lessons are the HPC intro, deprecated HPC shell lesson. There's a legacy Python lesson called HPC's Parallel Novice, which may eventually evolve into the developer lesson. The HPC workflow, which has now been actually taught twice. There were two workshops at Livermore. There's an HPC chapel lesson, which is interesting in that it's sort of massively parallel, but sort of doesn't fit into the strategic plan, but also we're not ready to let go of it. It still is, it's of interest to us at some level. And the strategic plan that this is a recap of the thing that I already mentioned, and also a recap of the emphasis of who our audience is. So that's what I had to say. I see I'm actually approximately on time, so that's nice. So this is the point at which I stop sharing and give the screen to Juan. Unless there are questions, or I see.
Yeah, there is a question in the chat, but the thing is that to share would need to be the host, or if also you can change in share screen, you can allow all participants to share the screen. So whatever is easier.
Okay, just answer the question in the chat. The answer is yes. The end all executable is okay. I believe I pushed the button that says everyone can share. Multiple participants can share.
Great. So okay, I will try to. Yeah, thank you. I can share the screen. I will in the beginning. Oh, but I lose the info. Okay, you see the.
I do.
But yeah, I think you don't see the.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing it in the presenter view, not the audience view.
Yeah, that's the. Okay, because maybe it's easier if I share the. Sorry, I tried this before and I knew that it would be a.
There we go.
Okay, great. So, well, yeah, thanks for joining. I'm Juan Herrera. I work at EPCC at the University of Edinburgh. I'm, the Archer 2 training function leader, person who organized the training courses for Archer 2. First of all, I will give a brief introduction of what Archer 2 is. Archer 2 is the UK National Supercomputing Service, and also is the name of the supercomputer that we have here in the UK. That is an HP Cray EX with almost 6,000 nodes. That is a total of three quarters of a million cores. Each compute node is 128 cores and could have 256 or 512 gigabytes of RAM. Also, I mentioned that, the Archer 2 is also the name of the Archer 2 service. We provide user support to, we have a service desk that, we have some, where we handle queries, so could be like, by mail, or could be like a video call. We have a 60-day training program for our users. We also provide some funding support to researchers that they want to port applications to a supercomputer, or they want to improve or add some new features. And part of the service is also outreach and engagement with the public and wider research community. So talking about the Archer 2 training, as I said, is a part of a service that we provide, and we try to like upskill the users that we have. We have a training program of 60 days that is we deliver online and face-to-face training to users. And also, the PCC training is underpinned by the ISO 9001, that is the quality management system. So I mentioned sometimes about the users, what we have seen in our for Archer 2 for our supercomputer, that we can divide the users into three groups. We have the first group that is researchers or package users that they log into the machine, they load some modules of the software that they need, and they run the experiments, so they don't develop software. We have another group that is we call it RSC developers. That is the one that they use, they develop and compile the software and execute it on the. And a third group is for data science. We call it a data scientist. That is the ones that they use the machine for data science. To do data science, data analysis, machine learning, deep learning, etc. So at the beginning of when we started the service, that was around mid 2020, we came to this diagram to see what courses we need to deliver, or what courses are appropriate to the users. So you see that where the three groups are on the not sure if there is not sure if you can see the pointer, but where on the top you see the three groups, that is researchers, data science, and developers. And also you see the key that is in the right hand side, that is we have for each group we have a user profile, and we have several courses depending on the difficulty. We have the introductory ones that are in green color, intermediate is yellow, and the red is advanced. What I will do is I will focus on the top part of this course training diagram that cover the gateway, what we call gateway courses, that are to teach what HPC is. That this is where HPC Carpentry plays a role in our training program, and also we have specific courses for Archer 2. So you see here more clearly for the group of researchers and RSC. So we have three personas or profiles. That is depending on the experience, could be novice or experienced user, and also depending if they have a HPC expertise or not. For those that they don't have a HPC expertise, we consider that the HPC Carpentry course is the course that they should attend in order to gain HPC skills and be ready for the next step, that is learning how to use Archer 2. That are these courses that are on the bottom, the blue color. So the HPC Carpentry, what we deliver is we deliver it in a 2-day format. There are some differences because I think we need to let's say, be more up to date with the current updates of the HPC Carpentry community, but we still use the HPC Share for the first day and the HPC Intro for the second day. Some people already know how to use a Share, so we make the day one optional. So for those that they don't want to attend the first day, yeah, it's optional. Also, we have seen that in the course feedback forms that we gather at the end of the course that we saw that some users already have that expertise, so we avoid it. Well, this is a note that the current person at EPCC that delivers these courses is Tony Hallam, and he ported the course, this to HPC Share and HPC Intro to the new Carpentry's workbench that is based on R Markdown, I think. So actually, this is feedback from where one of the points is from myself, and the rest of the points are from I discussed them with Tony, and this is the course instructor feedback that we have. That for instance, for the first day, the HPC Shell, we see that some learners struggle to see the relevance of the contents that we teach on the first day. Maybe, yeah, that would be good also to see if maybe using the share lesson that is available on the software carpentry, if we may see the difference. So this is something that we should try and see. Another point is, for instance, to log into Archer 2, the user needs to create the SSH keys and use the SSH command, use these SSH keys that has been created, and also a two-factor authentication. So also, we are still this is like an open question, and also we are trying to, because we do that during the first day, but for instance, if you do that at the beginning of the lesson, we haven't covered anything about Share, so people who haven't used Share, they struggle to yeah, because they need to create this SSH keys. The SSH keys is in a folder, so you need, it's a bit tricky, that part. So when it's in person, it's easier to troubleshoot these issues, but when it's online, it's a bit more tricky to be on top of this. Also, for regarding the second day, that would be good to include some commands that maybe this is already included, but yeah, that's the thing that we should like compare the state, the current state of the HPC intro lesson and the one that we use to query for instance, the different queues or partitions that we have on the systems, in order to understand if we could have some systems that, well, most of the systems nowadays, they have a GPU partition, so identify which ones are available, and because yeah, each system is different, and that would be good to include some information of how to query data using PBS or Slurm. That is now the most common Java scheduler. More feedback that, well, when we talk about the speed up at the end of the lesson, that some people, they struggle to understand what is expected, the speed up or the actual speed up. But I think that's why we have the exercise, and actually I find the exercise is quite useful to understand all of these concepts. Regarding the performance test code use, before we used to have a sharpen, that is image filtering, and this code we have to compile the code, and also like an additional work. I mean, the point of the exercise was to understand the performance, speed up, etc. So we were spending some more time with the compilation, and yeah, was not, I would say, ideal. So what we are using now is a Python code that calculates the pi number using MPI. So that code is with this code is much easier to get performance numbers and to create a speed up plot and to explain these concepts. Also, we find that would be good to have like a more advanced exercises because normally what we find with these carpentry courses, say HPC Carpentry, Software Carpentry, Data Carpentry, that the users have, or well, that attendees could have a different levels. So having maybe some exercises that are more advanced, they could be more useful for more advanced users. And last, we the impact. This is also something that we try to measure on Archer 2 to see the impact that we have when we deliver the training. That that we go to a center, we deliver HPC Carpentry, but it's difficult to measure the impact of. I guess this could be measured maybe for a number of queries that are ideally queries that the service desk receive with questions about how to write a job submission script or how to use a queue, etc. could be reduced, but that is a comment. And regarding the course material format, I mentioned before that, this has been ported to the new carpentry's format. I try to be like, let's say, good. There are mixed opinions about the new carpentry's format because before I was using directly with Markdown and now use R Markdown. It takes some time to configure the packages that you use, the tools. Some people are not that happy with the change from the point of view of the lesson developer. So, but it's I guess once that you know how to do it, it's good. But takes up the beginning takes some time to. And also regarding snippets, we use them, but we don't use them we find it a bit less difficult to, for instance, to include the instructions to log into Archer 2. These instructions are quite large these snippets are used, but not it's a limited use. And actually also for the new format, doesn't naturally support the snippets, but that is a workaround that Tony used. This this is what actually this is my last slide, so I will stop sharing, and Andrew, feel free to.
I was just going to put up my I have a closing slide with our comms channels on it. I can put that up while we do questions. Hopefully people are seeing that. It's outlined in green on my screen, so. Any questions for me or one?
I see there is a question in the chat about for the next HPC Carpentry in person in Edinburgh. We don't know yet. We plan to deliver 2 HPC Carpentries before April 2025, but we don't know yet the locations. Maybe one run will be in London. Second one could be, maybe the second one could be in Edinburgh, but it's still a question mark. We don't know yet. Actually, maybe there is one in Edinburgh, but I don't know yet the when. Thank you.
I see a hand up. Lauren?
Yeah, so I'm wondering, how often do you offer the carpentries lesson? Because I know for us, I'm at MIT Office of Research, Computing and Data. We get new users all the time, it's a constant thing. So what do new users do while they're waiting for the carpentries lesson just to
So-
get started?
So our lessons are still fairly beta, and it's pretty opportunistic. So we do them at NIST about once a year, and sort of ad hoc otherwise. I don't
Yeah, I
know
guess.
what.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious for the Archer.
Yeah, for us, we deliver it twice a year.
Okay.
We also what I show that we have also other courses that we explain how to use Archer 2 that are kind of similar to the concepts that are explained on HPC Carpentry. But for instance, this year, because Archer 2 has been around for several years, and now these courses are not, let's say, that popular. We don't get a great number of attendees. What we are doing is we are delivering more HPC Carpentry courses. So normally twice a year, but I think last year was maybe some years we delivered it 3 times. And also we see that the course is quite demanded in the UK, because normally when we talk to some venues and we offer the courses that we have, one of the courses that normally is asked is the HPC Carpentry. So I think the last one was delivered in Liverpool in January. Actually, next week it will be in Southampton. Yeah, we have been in different places in London, Edinburgh. Yeah, it's a course that is kind of popular here in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have asynchronous training that people use to get started before they have the opportunity to take the course?
I mean,
Is there, because I don't, like I said, for us, we have new users coming all the time. So if we were to offer a course like this twice a year, there would be tons and tons of users in between those courses who would not know how to use the system for months.
Okay, no, what we do on Archer 2 that all courses are recorded.
Okay.
So there are some okay the courses that are face-to-face are not recorded, but because we started in 2020 and yeah, because of the pandemic we had to deliver our courses online. We have there are some recordings of the HPC Carpentry course for some users that they may ask about, we redirect them to these recordings.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any plans to expand the lessons you're offerings, and what do you think you'd want to add to it next?
I'm not sure if that was for me or Juan, but we do plan to build out the developer track, sort of the next thing that we want to do. There's also a fair amount of interesting GPU material sort of out there in the world that we might want to try to adapt into an HPC carpentry or parallel carpentry type lesson, but the actual strategic plan next step is the HPC developer lesson.
Also, I see that the HPC Carpentry includes the workflow. This could be something that we could consider, and because every year we review the training catalog that we offer. We add new courses, so normally we update the courses. So that's good to see that yeah, the HPC Carpentry now contains more material. So yeah, definitely we'll keep an eye on. We may have make changes of the way that we deliver or let's say flavor of HPC Carpentry. Yeah, because but yeah, I mean it's interesting to see that yeah, there are some development and some interest. So yeah, definitely is something that we will keep an eye on, keep improving, adding the improvements to our training program.
I will say that one of the challenges of the workflow lesson is sort of which workflow tool to use. The sort of official version that we maintain within HPC Carpentry, within our HPC Carpentry project, is use a SnakeMake because it has a fair amount of mind share in the carpentries community. I think it comes from the bio world and is relatively easy to get started. But when we did it at Livermore, they actually have a tool there called Maestro or Maestro WF. And so Jane Harriman actually adapted the lesson for Maestro, and that's what we taught there. But so I don't think we have an answer for like what's the right workflow tool at this point. That's one of the challenges.
Yeah, I think this, as you said, yeah, it's a bit difficult to choose one because when there are like several options, it's like for the Java scheduler that now Slurm is more popular. Used to be PBS. I assume yeah, could be other, but yeah, it's always a challenge. But yeah, also there are resources like snippets, so there are workarounds that could be used.
Any other questions from the audience? All right. I want to thank everyone, and I want to thank our speakers here. I know we really appreciate the audience and the speakers for this webinar series. It's been nice seeing a few more of you out there for these. And we have recorded this. This will go up on the YouTube channel. And we hope to see you for the next one. If anyone's interested in presenting one of these webinars, certainly feel free to reach out, especially to Steve Gordon, and let him know. Scott, it was the clap, not a hand. I thought someone was raising a hand. All right. Anything else? Again, thanks to our speakers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Opportunity. It was great.
All right. I'll see
Thank
y'all.
you.
I'll see y'all at the next one.
Right.
Thank you very
See you.
much. See you.